Coming up on the Athena Ronae Show, we have special guests Georgette Jones and Ronnie McDowell. I cannot wait for you to see what we have in store for you.
The Athena Ronae Show.
First guest on my show, I thought it would be very fitting to have my father on the show, Mr. Ronnie McDowell.
Well, thank you, and I'm here live and in color, and both of us are dressed in black.
Welcome to my show.
And you look mighty pretty.
Thank you.
And I see down here you got a cheat sheet.
Daddy.
I see your notes.
Daddy.
That's okay. Hey.
Yeah, only Daddy would tell on you.
Everybody does it.
Well, you're my dad, and I have to have cheat sheets. So,
Yeah, that's
hey,
right.
first
That's
show.
right. You
so
don't know anything about me.
there's a lot of probably don't want to know.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, that goes two ways.
let's be honest.
Two ways.
So I have my first question for you. This is a question that I've been asked my entire life.
Okay.
What is it like to be Ronnie McDowell's child? So my question in reverse is, what is it like to be my dad? Because everybody always has asked me that question. What's it like to have a famous dad and to have Ronnie McDowell be your dad? And because you've always been my dad, I don't know. I don't know life any different than you being a successful person and being out in the public eye. So I just thought that was an interesting question because...
That is an interesting question because... you know, you kids, you just look at me like dad.
Yes.
You don't, and all the TV shows that y'all have been to, all the shows, everything you've witnessed that I have done, in your early childhood, because you were only 5 when I had my first record. So, and I'm sure that had to be like crazy and haywire for you. All that commotion and all that craziness that was going on when I had that first record, which was a huge record, The King Is Gone, about Elvis Presley. I actually had just a little bit of that pandemonium because the Elvis emotion was so high and fans were reaching and trying to tear my clothes off. So I had just a little of that. So it was a crazy world.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember how scared I used to get.
Well, imagine how scared I was.
Well, I was 5.
Well, that's true. I never will forget when that record hit on Friday. They wanted me on the Grand Ole Opry that next night. Well, I didn't even know the words. We just threw it together the night before. So I walked out on the Grand Ole Opry and it was packed. And I was like, Lord, please let me remember these words. I never missed a syllable or a word. And so then I had to jump in my Camaro and fly down to Chattanooga because they had me on a show at this club called the Hitching Post. So I drove up. Here's all these TV trucks, and the place was just like pandemonium. So this guy walked up to my car and he said, hey, Ronnie, the record company has sent me here to represent you, and we have paid 20 girls $20 a piece to scream when you come out. Say, I've never told you this. And I said, you did what? He said, yeah, it's that old Colonel Tom Parker thing. And they'll scream, and then that'll make the rest of them scream. I said, I never knew that. And he goes, yeah, that's the way they got all the girls scream for Elvis. But once 2 or 3 of them started, the whole place just erupted. And I said, well, that's pretty cool, really.
I've never heard this.
Well, little did he know. Little did I know. When they introduced me, the whole place started rushing the stage, and it scared me to death. So I ran behind my drummer, Doug Anderson, and he goes, get away from me, they'll kill me too. See, I've never told you that.
You've never told me that.
And then
so funny.
They put me on a plane the next morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, after all of that. And so I flew to Peoria, Illinois, and on the show were the Gatlin brothers, George Jones and Tammy Wynette. So the next day, the next morning I get on a plane, I go to the back of the plane, there sits George. And he sat there, and I sat there and talked all the way to Atlanta, which was only like an hour-and-a-half flight. But it was so interesting, his philosophies, kind of like Conway Twitty, and some of the things that he told me. And I'll tell you when you have your other guest here, I want to tell her this story. But anyway, so I was on the show with Kenny Rogers and George down in Atlanta. And my life was just like a whirlwind. It never stopped.
Weren't you on American Bandstand within a week?
I was. Well, 2 weeks later, I was on American Bandstand, and I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I was getting ready to go on at the Old South Jamboree, and this guy, just before I went on, said, "You have a phone call in the back." So I went back there, and this voice goes, "Ronnie, this is Dick Clark. You go to the Baton Rouge airport. I have a private jet for you tonight. You're going to be on American Bandstand tomorrow." And I go, "Yeah, right. Who is this?" And he goes, "No, Ronnie, this is Dick Clark." So I went to the airport and I get on this private jet, and he said, "Now get some rest." I never slept a wink. Well, lo and behold, when I landed at the LA airport, there was a helicopter. I get on the helicopter,
wow,
and I land right in front of the ABC lot. They rush me into makeup, and I'm looking in the mirror, and here comes Dick Clark. Now, I went, "Wow, Dick Clark, I can't believe I'm here." And he goes, "Well, Ronnie, you're number 9 this week. You've sold 1 million records in a week, which is unheard of, and you deserve to be here."
I
said,
goosebumps.
"Yeah," and I said, "Well, I cannot believe that I'm here. I've been watching you since '57. And I know that y'all pantomime, and I'm so glad because I don't know this song that well." He goes, "Ronnie, we don't do that anymore." And my heart froze. I said, "Please don't tell me that." He said, "When that red light comes on, there'll be 80 million people watching you."
That helped the
And
nerves.
then my heart really froze. And he said, "But you'll have cue cards underneath the camera." This was before monitors. So, and they wrote it out with a magic marker on big old pieces of paper. But if you Google me on American Bandstand, I look like I knew what I was doing. I never
Yes.
missed a word.
I couldn't tell you were nervous at all. I've watched
But
it a million
inside,
times.
I was petrified. And you know, every time I look at that, I don't look at it that much because I can't stand looking at me. But anyway, the times that I do look at it, the thing that I remember is my lips were so, I had the biggest lips. It looked like you could, I wonder where you got those.
I don't know.
Anyway, it looked like you could stick me on a wall and I'd stay there. That's
I've
the
heard
only
that
thing
more
I
than
think
once.
about every time I see
So
that.
I have a Dick Clark story for you.
Okay.
I don't even know if you know this. I was a teenager, and as teenagers do, we were fighting. My sister and I were fighting at
Surely
home,
not.
and nobody would answer the phone, and it was her turn. So I got really angry with her, and I was screaming, "Get the phone!" And she wouldn't do it, so I ran and grabbed it, extremely rude, and said, "Hello!" And somebody said, "Is Ronnie there?" And I said, "No." And I was being a typical horrible
You never
teenager.
told me this, and this is terrible.
Yes. So,
You talk to my friend Dick Clark like that.
and he said, I said, "Can I take a message?" And he said, "This is Dick Clark." And I went, "Daddy's going to kill me."
You never told me that.
He never told either, so thanks. So I was so glad he never told on me because I was so afraid that he was going to tell you.
Wow.
But I didn't get in trouble, but I answered the phone that way to Dick Clark.
Well, that's all right. He probably understood about kids.
Yeah, he was really sweet. He was
Yeah.
a good man. Well, thank you for being the first guest on my show.
I'm more than happy to be the first guest, and sweet of you to ask Daddy. And I love you.
I love you too.
Before we get to our next interview, let's go to Jennifer with Wandering with Jen at my favorite place, Disney World.
Hi Athena, hello everybody. I'm Jen with Wandering with Jen, and today we are at Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World celebrating the 50th anniversary. And it has just been an exciting time here at Walt Disney World. The castle got a cool new makeover, beautiful paint. There are 50th anniversary banners everywhere. There are specialty foods and drinks and desserts and so much cool stuff happening during the 50th anniversary.
Also today we had Pinocchio House for our meal. They have the 1971 meal that came with a flatbread, breadsticks, a cake pop, and a drink. Amazing. Now I am on the hunt, of course, for some cupcakes.
One thing about me you will learn, I love the desserts. I will make sure I hit all the good ones. and share those with you.
Another awesome fun thing during the 50th anniversary are these beautiful gold statues. Beautiful, great picture spots. Definitely check all of them out.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Up next is my sweet friend, Miss Georgette Jones. She is an actress, singer, songwriter, and gamer. She has her own whiskey brand, and she is a published author. Please welcome Miss Georgette Jones.
Hi, Georgette. Long time no see.
Yes, absolutely. Not so long next time.
I totally
How are you
agree.
doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Great. Thank you for
Welcome
having
to my
me.
show.
I appreciate it.
So, I'm so excited for you to be here.
Well, thank you. I
Long
appreciate you
time
asking.
coming. I've been
Yes.
waiting for this for a while. So
Yes, I think pre-pandemic we were talking about doing
Yes.
things like this. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to see you finally got it here and you're doing
Me
it. It looks
too.
great.
So excited. So speaking of the pandemic, that's why you kind of transitioned into doing things with your sweet little husband that
Yes.
is here today.
Yes.
I finally got to meet him. I'm so excited.
He's awesome.
Is he how you got, or he taught you to get into gaming? Is that what happened?
Because like I tell people all the time, and I'm sure, like I said, they're probably sick of hearing me say it and laugh about it, but I run my mouth and I play games, and that's about it. Back years ago when we first started playing, I've always been a gamer. Like I love to play games. My family, we've always played
it was you,
cards
not
and
him?
board games and marbles and all that stuff. But you know, I kind of, when my kids are now, I have twin boys that are 28. But when they were younger, we'd play Nintendo and things together. But then I stopped for a while playing, and so my husband convinced me to start playing Call of Duty with him, and I'm like, I'm kind of intimidated because the controllers, I'm like, joystick, 1 or 2 buttons. That's usually
Yes.
what I did. So
I know the feeling.
yeah, so I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to do this, but he's like, look, just stick with it for a week or 2. You'll get past all that. You'll figure out what you're doing, and then you're going to love it. And he was right. So we've had so much fun. Especially, you know, when we come home from work and you've been on the road all weekend and whatever, you just want to unwind and hang out and not really do anything. And as we've gotten older, we're kind of we don't do the go downtown and the bar and all that. We don't, like, we're just homebodies. We like to be
Yeah.
at home with our dogs and cats. And so we just think that's our fun time. We love to play
The
games.
pandemic
And-
probably confirmed that to you as well.
yeah, which
just
was
made you
great.
feel
It's a good thing we
this
like
is
being at home
Yeah.
together because we definitely got to do a lot of that. But when we did, we talked so much since then. Why in the world did we not start this when it first happened? Like, I wish we'd kind of could go back a year and a half and start much sooner than what we did. But
That's actually what he did. He
Yeah.
went straight to streaming to help his band out.
I just love what we're doing. It's really down to earthy stuff. Me and the band and people tune in from. It's so crazy in today's world. You push a button, and you can go all over the
Everywhere.
world. Out of Red Boiling Springs, you can go to Australia, England. You can go to Japan, and it's what's really crazy. There's a guy in China that watches us every weekend, and his name is Mr. Wang. I love it. He watches every weekend.
that's great. You see, like, that's the one thing too we've talked about so much. The way this kind of started, first of all, we're going to play games anyway. Why
Right.
not go ahead and talk to other people and build a
Right.
community and kind of see what we can do with this? And our thoughts were, we really want to kind of bring country music and gaming into the same kind of community because
Right.
there's a lot of different ages. I mean, a lot of people kind of stereotype gamers as young adolescent boys, and that
Oh,
is
I'm
the
learning that.
biggest lie out
Yes,
there.
yes.
I'm going to go ahead and name drop somebody in the streaming community. If y'all don't know who Tactical Grandma is,
Are you serious?
she is like the best sniper you could ever watch. She's really good, and
That's
she's so
so
much fun to
neat.
watch. You know, she's like me. She's in her 50s, and she just
She
gets
calls
on there
herself
and she
grandma
calls
in
her
her
Tactical
50s. That's
Grandma.
not fair.
Yeah, but she's amazing. She really is. She's great.
Yeah.
And there are all ages, all everything. You're not limited on having fun and having a life just because of how old you are or
No,
any of those things.
Not at all.
So it kind of started just starting to play games, and then we get regular people in there, like you were talking about. We have a lot of friends that we have made. We all the time are meeting new people that come in to check us out, and a lot of people are usually surprised to see that I'm playing games. And so, 99% of it has been very, very positive. But we own something called Country Music Gaming, and we are basically getting started. We're at a point where we're going to start integrating doing some music along with our stream.
Getting started. How many subscribers do you have already?
Well, on Facebook we
lot?
have, on Facebook, on my fan page, we have 230 something, 239.
And just got started?
That is, I will
yeah,
say it. It's I'm sure
amazing.
mostly amazing because people love my parents and they have been so sweet to come and support and check
don't
me out.
belittle what you've done.
No, I
because you
appreciate
in your
that.
own right are amazing.
Thank
And we're
you.
going to hear you sing later too.
I'm excited.
So,
It's a song
yeah,
I
we're
really
actually
love.
going to hear Georgette sing off of her Skin CD.
Yes.
We're going to hear her sing the title song off of her CD in just a little bit.
I wrote this song a few years ago. It takes people sometimes a while. Some people are lucky; they know exactly who they are and they're happy with who they are when they're young. And it took me a little bit longer to get
Me
to a
too.
place where I felt happy as who I am and with
Me too.
what I look like. So the song is really about being happy in your own skin. Just finally being acceptant of who you are and not worrying about what other people think about you or judging you. And especially during all the craziness of the last 2 years, I have never seen so much anger and hatred and all over social media. And we actually took a break and kind of stayed away for about 8 months and just played games. And so we're kind of re-entering with a whole new mindset. Like what I told my husband, I don't want to be negative in any possible way, especially around other people. I don't want to be a downfall for anyone. I want to be a blessing if I can be. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be negative. So we try not to post anything that's, questionable or negative. We just post funny videos and,
So you're trying to
catch
tell
up
me you
and-
don't put anything political on there?
Not anymore. Not anymore.
But it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't, because you're always going to have trolls.
Yes.
But you know what we do? You know what I've decided to do? And you wouldn't believe how this works. Because at first, when we started doing it and we had these trolls, I got kind of angry inside. But then I decided, I'm going to stop that. So and Ronnie Dean, my son, he controls everything. He goes, Dad, can we hold just a minute while I get rid of these trolls? And from now, here's what I do. I just go, hey, all you trolls out there, I just want you to know I love you. And you know what? We never hear from them again.
There you go. I believe
that's
in
the
that, and I
truth.
really do,
Yeah.
and I won't say anything too specific, but let's just say people like to bring up negative things at times and ask
Of
me
course they
questions
do.
that are, I can't believe they would even ask that, but they
Yeah.
do, and that they're very few and far between, thankfully.
Yeah, they
but-
are.
Yeah.
It's 99.9% wonderfully positive.
We usually end up, I'll answer their question in a positive way if I can't answer directly, and then I just say, and you know what, we're praying for you, or I'll say I'm praying for whoever, or whatever. They're not getting what they want. I'm not going to say something negative and horrible about people or to people. I'm just not going to do that.
Well, once they hear your song, Skin, then that's the way they'll feel.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean it.
I appreciate that. That
And
means a
that's
whole
the
lot
way I
coming
would
from
like
him.
you to feel. It's not just about your parents. You are an amazing songwriter.
Well,
of
you're an
course.
amazing singer,
Thank
and you're
you.
an amazing gamer. I've been watching you.
Head's growing.
I know, but still, I know. We lived in the shadow of our parents for so long, and I would wish that you would be more, about your
I
talents
appreciate that.
and feel like it's not just about them. You are an amazing
Well, for a
artist.
while, I was a registered nurse for 17 years. And the reason why I went into nursing, I guess at 17, I had a chance. I could have done some work with Joe Galante and RCA Records. We were talking to some other people, maybe doing a group thing. And I just got scared. Most of my life, I think I was good at singing on stage and happy to do it when I was really little. And then when I got somewhere around 8 or 9 or 10, I suddenly realized people were talking about me and commenting on whether or not I could sing or not.
Yeah.
And so I kind of suddenly realized that I'm being compared. And then you think, oh, well, my parents are both legends in what they do. How am I supposed to compare to that?
Right.
And then I was panicking. I could feel my heart beating out of my chest.
Yeah.
I'd be sweaty, ball of mess, trying to go on stage. And I got to where I was kind of nervous about even trying to do it. But I knew it made my mom and dad happy when I would come out and sing with them. And I wanted to
Yeah.
sing. So I stayed away from it for a long time out of fear and worry.
But it's also, it's nice to have a normal white picket fence life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
step away from that for a while.
Well, and
I've
that's really
seen that that's good for
I
you.
think that's what the other part of the equation was for me when I started thinking about I want to get married and have children one day, and totally nothing at all against my parents. I am so happy that they had the wonderful careers they did. I know that they didn't do it in a way that they were, trying not to be with their family. Obviously, it was the opposite. My mom even wrote a song called Dear Daughters. If you haven't seen it or heard it, please go listen. It's amazing, and it's basically about her being so sad, being away for big events and things that she missed, being on the road all the time.
That breaks my heart.
But my point is, it took me getting past my mother's death, really, and getting to a place where I was more mature and thinking, you know what, I love singing, I love writing, and I don't want to be 80 or 90 if I make it to that age and think, I wonder what would have happened if I ever pursued my actual passion, what I really love. And so I thought, successful or not, doesn't matter. I just want to do what I love to do. And, I was super nervous those first couple of years. I think you could still probably see my hand doing like this, holding the microphone, me trying to still, keep it from being visible in front of an audience. And I'm sure I probably got look like a deer in the headlights and, fake smiles, the whole thing. And then eventually I relaxed, and I realized this is something I love to do. And I've got great people behind me who support me and aren't going to let me down. And, when I realized it's okay just to be vulnerable and be me, then it was a lot more fun, and I do enjoy it.
I want to tell you a story. So I went to the airport, and I get on this private jet. I go to the back of the plane. There sits your dad.
Did he serenade you at least to
No,
pay back?
let me tell you. I said, George, where was you at yesterday? And he goes, sit down, son. And we sat there and talked all the way to Atlanta, and we bonded till he died.
Oh.
The last time I saw him was in Mississippi. His 80th birthday. He called me. He said, son, have you got my new painting done? I said, yes, sir. It was the young George, because he thought the older George that I painted, that he called me and asked me to do, made him look too old and crotchety. That's what he said.
That's hysterical.
He
And of course
said-
he would critique something like that, but
Yes.
by the way, it is a beautiful and amazing
Oh,
thing,
well, thank
so.
you. Well, this is the
you.
one that he called me and asked me to do. I don't know if
Right.
you have one of these,
Oh my gosh, that is gorgeous.
but that's yours. I wanted you to have that.
Really?
Yes.
Thank you,
You
so
don't
much
have
for
that?
that. No, I know that you had talked about it the last time and we were going to get it, but then we never got to see each other. and got
Well,
to talk.
I literally
That is
told him to go
awesome.
out and take some pictures on his lawnmower. So the next day,
But see, I know that he wouldn't like me saying this, but you did capture it. I'm just saying. This is what he looked like on the lawnmower. I'm just saying, because he'd be like, he was very serious when he got on that thing to go do his
I
yard
know,
work. So
but the
that
next-
is awesome.
thank you. The next day, I had a stack of photos that thick, and that picture that I drew that from was in there. So he called me in February. That was Christmas Day when I took it over there. He stared at that for 30 minutes. And he goes, son, what do I have to sign? I said, George, you don't have to sign nothing. I just want to sell prints. And he said, sell all the prints you want the rest of your life. Who cares?
That's hysterical.
I said, well, thank you. Well, in February, he called me and said, you got to redo that painting, son. You made me look too old and crotchety. I said, George, you gave me the picture. He said, yeah, but you got to redo it. So he called me and he said, I'm at the Hard Rock. You're at the Beau Rivage right next door. He says, it's my 80th birthday. So when I got down there, he called me up and he said, son, it's my 80th birthday. There's going to be 11 people. You're number 12. You come over and share my birthday with me. He said, you got my new painting? I said, yes, sir. He said, you make me look good? And I said, yeah, George, flat top and all. So I get over there and I took, this is God's truth. There was just 12 of us in there. I don't even know all the people, who they were, but I took the cover off of it and he looked at it and he goes, you got it right now, son. But here's what I want to tell you. So we got up to leave and he grabbed me and hugged me. And your dad was kind of short.
Yeah, he wasn't the tallest.
No,
person.
and he
Probably
looked-
the tallest in our family.
But he hugged me so tight and he looked up at me and he goes, I love you, son.
Aw.
And that's the last time I ever seen him. But I remember that moment, and that was what I wanted to remember.
Well, that's the most important thing. And
But I also want to tell you this, and I'll get off of this real quick. Every time I do a show with George, I'd do my thing. He'd come out there. He'd go, Well, y'all seen Ronnie running all over the stage, didn't you? He said, you see this 4-foot circle? I ain't getting out of it. And he didn't have to. It was George Jones.
Well, and you know what I loved about him too? It was so funny because once you got to know him, if you didn't know him, you'd probably not hear him say 2 words. He'd be real quiet and sit in the corner somewhere. But once he got to know you, he loved to pick on you. That's how you knew if he would pick and say things to you and really start a conversation with you. You knew that he cared
Oh, I
about
know.
you, really.
And I was always aggravating him because I would always change words to songs, and I had my own version of the Beverly Hillbillies song. I can't do that for y'all. But anyway.
Imagine that.
That's another show.
But I did it for George, and he goes, well, that's about the funniest thing I ever heard, son.
He had a great sense of humor.
He really did.
He really did. And that's, that's the kind of thing I hope people will remember about him. At the end of the day, my dad was a very caring and loving and funny, very competitive. Like Mom, both of them. It's so funny. No wonder my husband, he knows why I'm so competitive when I do anything. If I have to win. If I don't win, we have to play again. I'm just saying. So,
Well, thank you guys both for coming today.
I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure hearing your new song, Skin.
Thank you. That
And you
does
know
mean a lot.
what? That is hard to do, to sit with just an acoustic and sing. That's a really hard thing to do, but you do it beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
And see, you're not shy at all anymore, and you sing so beautiful.
Thank you.
And no offense to your mama, because I'm her biggest fan too, but you sing just as good as she does.
Oh, see, I could never even see that, but that just is a wonderful compliment.
Hey,
I
look,
tried to tell
I
you.
sit over there and I listen, and I listen to singers and songs, and I thought, well, Georgette sings as good as her mama does.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
I mean that.
Best compliment ever, especially from someone who I admire so much. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
So this segment is called Famous Families, where we will be interviewing families of celebrities. Because, like I said in my interview with my dad, a lot of people used to ask me growing up, what's it like to have a famous father? So I'd like to interview people and ask them, what is it like to have a famous father, uncle, brother, sister, whatever. So famous families, that's what it's about. So Georgette Jones actually has famous not only father, one of the famous country music singers ever to live, but also famous mother, one of the famous country women to ever live. So Tammy Wynette and George Jones. So we're going to ask her some questions about what it is like, or what it was like, to be the daughter of not one, but 2 famous people. So,
Doubly crazy.
yes. So we've talked about it a lot over the phone and stuff, and talked about some things that
I've
we've
written
both
off
experienced.
a few moments like that. We had our lunch, and I'm going to write that off as therapy. So it's all good. But no, I don't
It
make
is,
it sound
isn't
like
it?
that. But
Yeah.
I think that question that you said, that what's it like, or what was it like, that is probably the first question everybody always asks, and I always feel the most awkward when I answer it, because to be honest, I don't know what it's like any other way. 'Cause for me,
either.
they were just mom and dad, and
Yes.
I had chores to do, and I got in trouble if I didn't make good grades, and I had, we had different things that we did that was just like any other family. And I think when I was really young, especially, I had no idea that what they did was so unusual, or that it wasn't just like everybody else, and you meet people. Here's Loretta Lynn, we're at the Opry, this is one of Mom's coworkers.
Right,
The place
exactly.
where she works.
Yes.
So, I mean, I really didn't get it for a long time.
And those people were more like family
They
and
were,
friends
and everybody
than
knew
famous
each
people.
other. Yeah, and like the Opry back in the day was so much different than now. Like my husband plays steel guitar for Easton Corbin, so there's occasions where we get to go to the Opry when he plays, and it's still a remarkable place, of course, with its
I just
history.
went the other night.
Absolutely. But
First
it
time
is-
I ever sat in the audience, by the way.
Yes,
I've
and it's
never
so
been in the
different, isn't it?
audience my entire life. I'm 48.
Yeah.
And I've always been backstage. So
Yes.
it was really fun
Yes.
to sit where everyone else sits.
Definitely.
Which
And
was
see the actual show happening rather than...
Yes.
Really
fun.
when I was growing up, everybody brought their kids, their grandkids, their whatever. I mean, we were running around
We
crazy
were
in the
running
back.
around everywhere.
I mean, I'd just go run right on into Minnie Pearl's dressing room and say, hey,
Yep.
because she lived...
Sweetest lady
on
in the world.
Yeah, I mean, she
Yeah.
lived on the street behind where we lived growing up. And so everybody just talked to everyone. Everyone watched each other's kids as they were coming in and out of dressing rooms. And it was such a family place. It just didn't seem like it was anything fancy back then. So I think it wasn't until I was, I mean, I think when I got into my 20s, it hit me. And I say that I can actually remember when it happened to me, for the most part with Mom. Mom had done a benefit, the Rainforest benefit, with Sting and Elton John and James Taylor and Whitney Houston and Pavarotti, and like all these people were doing this huge benefit at Carnegie Hall. And Mom was really nervous about going to Carnegie Hall just because it's such a different kind of atmosphere and different people who sing there, and it was kind of different from her usual element. And when I went to go visit Mom, and there was a Rolling Stone magazine on the table, and Mom was the centerfold. Like there were like 4 or 5 pages of Mom in the middle of Rolling Stone, and I'm like, I'm gonna read this article. Mom, meanwhile, is in her nightgown making breakfast. She's like, cooking biscuits and sausage gravy, and just over there doing her thing. And so I'm reading it, and I get to this point, and they're talking about, of all of these people that sang that night, there was only one standing ovation, and it was when Mom sang "Stand by Your Man." And I'm reading it, and I'm like, that's my mom. Like, wow. And I'm like, Mom,
That's so
you got
awesome.
all these standing ovations. She's like, and she just keeps, still making breakfast. Like, sure did. But
Up next, we are going to hear her sing Skin.
I see them looking at me. I wonder, what do they see? Do they think they understand? Can they believe in the life I've planned? Or are they just judging me now, thinking they can read me somehow? I'm not just a woman made of this world. I still have the heart of Daddy's little girl. So don't just see this face. Don't see my clothes or my hair that's out of place. Don't stare at my tattoos or the scar on my cheek. 'Cause they don't mean I'm trouble, and they don't make me a freak. No matter what, I'm living life until the end. 'Cause I'm finally happy in this skin I'm in. I hid behind my makeup, but some things you just can't cover up. All the pain and regret might not show now, but I won't forget. Those days were just stepping stones, and who I was still unknown. Now I am a woman made of this world, and still have the heart of Daddy's little girl. So don't just see this face. Don't see my clothes or my hair that's out of place. Don't stare at my tattoos or the scar on my cheek. 'Cause they don't mean I'm trouble, and they don't make me a freak. No matter what, I'm living life until the end. 'Cause I'm finally happy in this skin I'm in. So don't just see this face. Don't see my clothes or my hair that's out of place. Don't stare at my tattoos or the scar on my cheek. 'Cause they don't mean I'm trouble, and they don't make me a freak. No matter what, I'm loving life until the end. I'm finally happy in this skin I'm in. Yes, I'm finally happy in this skin I'm in. Yes, I'm finally happy in this skin